In the lecture before Diwali, we had started talking about the concept of cash book, in which we understood that cash book is basically prepared for recording all the cash and bank related transactions, and these all transactions these all transactions are recorded considering that those transactions involve cash, bank, and discount. If it is a cash related transaction, we can prepare only a single column cash book wherein we record only the cash related transactions. No bank transactions will be coming in that. However, if we prepare a double or triple column cash book, in that case, we can record the discounts as well as the bank transactions in our cash book. We had also talked about the concept of a contra transaction, which means what? That all the transactions which are related to the cash and bank, the transactions whose both the effects get completed within the cash book itself, is what we call as a contra transaction. Such contra transactions are also recorded in our cash book. But we do not do the posting of these contra transactions. This is what we had talked about. I'll just draw the format of a cash book, and then we'll go ahead with the concept related to, in fact, this is the last part of our discussion now in the first chapter. Yes. So if I draw a cash book, the format of cash book, a cash book will have the format of a ledger account. It is not prepared in the format of a subsidiary book other than this. अब तक के हमने जितने भी ड्रॉ किए थे वो सारे सब्सिडियरी बुक्स थे, जो ये भी एक सब्सिडियरी बुक है. हालांकि दिस विल बी प्रिपेयर्ड इन द फॉर्मेट ऑफ एन अकाउंट बिकॉज कैश बुक इज द पार्ट ऑफ प्राइमरी बुक ऑफ प्राइम एंट्री एज वेल एज प्राइमरी बुक्स. So if I am having only one amount column on each side, I'm having only one amount column on each side of this cash book, then in that case it will be called as a single column cash book. So I'll have the columns as what? Date, particulars, and amount. Again, I'll have the column as date, particulars, and amount. In this case, this will be termed as a single column cash book because we are having only one amount column on both the sides of this cash book. All right. But if I draw an additional amount column on both the sides, on each side I'm having a separate two amount columns. In that case, it will become a double column cash book, and in the case of a double column cash book, one column will be assigned towards cash and second column will be assigned towards discount. On the debit side, it will be discount allowed, and on the credit side, we'll be having the column as cash and discount received. Debit side column is discount allowed and credit side column is discount received. LF I have completely ignored deliberately. Why? Because LF column is not prepared in the current scenario because we are living in the computerized world. So there is no need of having an LF column, Dhanraj. All right. If in my cash book I prepare an additional amount column on both the sides, that is basically for bank, I can record even the bank transactions in this. All the details will be coming then. In this case, the cash book will be called as a triple or multiple column cash book. A contra transaction is normally recorded in triple or multiple column cash book only. Now, what are we going to record in this and how are we going to do the posting? In fact, iska sara note likhwa ke diya. I'm just trying to present it once again. On the debit side of the cash book, I'm going to record the cash receipts. Why cash receipts? Because debit, what comes in is our rule. So all the cash receipts, bank deposits, because bank is the receiver of benefit if I'm depositing a particular money or a check into the bank, and discounts allowed will be recorded onto the debit side of cash book. Whereas onto the credit side of cash book, I'm going to record what? Cash payments. I'll record bank withdrawals. Any withdrawals from the bank will be recorded in this. And I'm going to record the discount received. Now, why discount allowed onto the debit side and discount received onto the credit side? Because discount will normally be allowed when the amount is received, and on top of that, discount allowed is an expense. Expenses have to be debited. And contra is the rule for the discount received. All right. Now, all the transactions which are recorded onto the debit side of the cash book, those all are expected to be posted to the credit side of respective account. Posted separately to credit of respective account. Whereas the transactions which are recorded onto the credit side, the transactions which are recorded onto the credit side are posted to debit of respective account. All right. Now, as far as the discount column is concerned, discount column is not balanced. The discount column is actually total. You take the total of discount column onto the debit side, you take the total of the discount column onto the credit side, and these totals are then posted to discount allowed account for the debit side, and the discount column onto the credit side total is posted to credit of discount received account. Am I right? Now, as far as the cash column is concerned, the cash column can have the debit balance only. If I write by balance carried down, the closing balance of my cash column and my bank column, in this case, this cash column cash bank column balance will be called as favorable balance. Why favorable? Because that indicates deposits are more than withdrawals. Whereas if it is having the credit balance, I've written to balance carried down. If this is the situation, in that case, it is called as overdraft. Please understand the cash column can never have the overdraft. However, bank column can have the overdraft. Am I right? So this is not possible. This is not possible. This is not possible. Why? Because discount column का हम लोग balancing करते नहीं है और कैश कॉलम में डेबिट बैलेंस ही होता है, क्रेडिट बैलेंस हो ही नहीं सकता. Am I clear on this front? Is the format clear for everyone? Yes, please draw it now. Chapo. तो दिवाली के बाद हर किसी का फीलिंग होता है कि 2-3 दिन एक्स्ट्रा छुट्टी तो मार ही लेनी चाहिए, पर आप लोग आ गए। सर काश ये लाइव क्लासेस होते, काश हम गांव गए होते तो आपकी उम्मीदें पूरी पूरी खरी उतर जाती। पर ये लाइव क्लासेस हैं, पर लाइव फेस टू फेस नहीं है, इसलिए हम लोग घर बैठे अटेंड कर रहे हैं। सर हमारे घर वालों को पता है कि हमारे लेक्चर चालू हो गए। हमारा तो मन आज भी था कि बस आज रहने दो यार, कल अटेंड करेंगे, पर फिर क्या, मैथ्स का लेक्चर, फिर अकाउंट्स का लेक्चर। From next week, you'll be having the schedule of 1 to 7 full. Yes, the whole week it will be 1 to 7. हाँ, without lecture boring था। नो नो, बीसी के बीसीआर, अकाउंट्स के लेक्चर डबल हो जाएंगे अब। Number of lectures for accounts will increase now. Even Abhishek sir will start taking some of the lectures. No, Athar, morning is not possible at all. People have the colleges. They go to the colleges also. BCK BCR will be starting in the month of January or February. Yes, I know, Stiona. This is a very good time. शाम का समय मिल जाता है। प्रणव, बहुत मुश्किल है लाइव लेक्चर स्टार्ट होना, फिजिकल लेक्चर स्टार्ट होना। Ishika, BCK BCR is hardly 25 lectures each, 25 to 30 lectures each. Yes, Pranav. So from Monday onwards, 4:30 to 6, it will be Abhishek sir instead of my lecture. For next week, my lectures won't be there at all. And from the subsequent week, how will my lectures be? I'll be announcing it. Suhasini, discount allowed is an expense, so expense have to be debited only or not? उसका क्रेडिट पोस्टिंग तो रिस्पेक्टिव कस्टमर अकाउंट में हो गया ना? Yes, in the ledger. His link he'll be sharing it tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow I'll be taking 3:30 to 5. Is it done? Yes, Neil, we'll take the night classes. Don't worry. Okay, let's do an example on this concept of cash book. If you'd observe, this is the example in your textbook. Many of you have already received it now. Yes or no? Majority of you have received it. If you don't have, I've already shared the soft copy of this with you people. Yes. So ABC Limited operates two bank accounts, both of which are maintained in the columnar cash book itself. You are required to draw up the pro forma of cash book and show how the following transactions relating to the 12th March 2014 will appear therein and close the cash book for the day. Opening balances are given to you. Cash, National Bank into bracket OD means what? The opening balance of National Bank will be written on to the credit side. Why onto the credit side? Because it is an overdraft. Yes or no? Then overseas bank, it is 35,460. If nothing has been provided, we have to presume that it's a favorable balance. And then there are the multiple transactions. So what we have to do? We have to prepare a format of cash book which will have all the columns related to cash, National Bank, overseas bank, and discount. Correct? So let's prepare it. What is that problem number? 6th on page number 4.2. 6th on page number 4.2. ABC Ltd. Cash book. Correct? Of course, you people know it very well. I need not repeat it. These are the stunts which are performed by the experts. Please do not try these at home. कर लगा? थोड़ा कॉलम्स में एडजस्टमेंट करते हुए हमें आगे बढ़ना होगा. उसके पहले कैश के नाम को एडजस्ट करना पड़ेगा. नेशनल बैंक के नाम को मिटा देना पड़ेगा. I hope you are preparing the format. बना रहे हो तुम लोग? Slab cash, National Bank, Overseas Bank. Similar columns will be there onto the credit side as well. Let's have those columns then. Duplicate and draw. Received. Correct. So yeah. So my cash book is ready. Are you people also ready? Shall I start? Cash book dated 12th March 2014. The very first that they have given are the opening balances related to cash and bank. So what will I do? I'll first present those opening balances. Yes or no? So I'll have number one, to balance brought down. For cash, it is 150. For overseas bank, it is 35,460. 150 and 35,460. Why am I not writing anything in the discount column or in the national bank column? Because national bank is having overdraft and discount column balance cannot be carried forward from one year to another. या इसके पहले का वो डिस्काउंट नहीं होगा. By balance brought down in the national bank column is how much? 11,240. Correct? Yes or no? कुछ पल्ले पड़ रहा है या मैं सिर्फ अपने अपने लिए ड्रॉ कर रहा हूं? You can raise hands for me. मुझे खुद के लिए सॉल्व नहीं करना है, मुझे सॉल्व करना आता है. हाँ, ठीक है. Next one. Received check of rupees 1,250 in respect of sales for realizing which National Bank charged rupees 5 and credited the balance. Now in this case, if National Bank has charged rupees 5, there are basically two different transactions. One, you have made a sale against which you received a check of rupees 1,250, which you deposited in the National Bank. So you'll pass the entry as Omkar, OD's overdraft. Overdraft means credit balance in the bank column or not? Yes or no, Omkar? Omkar Naik. Yes. So if you have made a sale against which you have received the check, you will first pass the entry as National Bank account debit to sales account. That's one entry. And then for recovering that check, the bank is levying you the charges of rupees 5. So for that purpose, I'll be passing the separate entry, bank charges account debit to National Bank account rupees 5. Had I passed the journal entry for this, I would have made a single journal entry as what? Bank account debit 1245, that is National Bank account debit 1245, bank charges account debit 5 to sales account 1250. But now I'm not writing it in the form of journal entry, I'm writing it in the cash book. So I have to write according to the cash book or not. And therefore that transaction will be recorded in two parts as what? Two sales in the National Bank column 1250, and then at the same time there are the charges being levied. So by bank charges, how much? Rupees 5 in the National Bank column, क्योंकि उसी चेक में से पैसा गया. You get that? Then the next transaction is, the next transaction is purchased goods for rupees 13,210 and check issued on overseas bank. The bank charged rupees 3 for the collection of the check to the concerned party. अब ओवरसीज बैंक ने या किसी भी बैंक ने कंसर्न पार्टी से अगर पैसा लिया है तो उससे हमारा कोई कंसर्न है क्या? We are concerned about only our payment, and our payment is by check of overseas bank rupees 13,210. So we'll simply pass the entry for that. By purchase in the overseas bank column 13,210. Am I right? Yes or no? अरे तुम लोगों को कुछ पल्ले पड़ रहा है या नहीं? हाँ, डर लगता है यार मेरे को कि तुम लोग मेरे को सुन रहे हो या सो रहे हो या रो रहे हो या क्या कर रहे हो, क्योंकि वो गाना था ना, सुन रहा है न तू रो रहा हूं मैं ना ऑल दैट। हाँ, या कोई फर्नीचर या सीमेंट का काम नहीं करता है फिर भी उनको मिस्ट्री बोलते हैं। असो, paid office expenses 45 and stationery 16. These are expense. Entry will be respective expense account debit to cash account. So entry number 4, by office expenses 45 and by stationery or stationery expense, either which way, it is 16. Correct? Next one. Out of cash sales of 13,265, a sum of rupees 10,000 was deposited in the National Bank. Again, these are two different separate transactions. However, how do I know those are cash expenses? Janvi, is the name of any person given in that? And you have been given that it is paid. So if the name of any person, cash, check, bank, credit is not mentioned, you have to presume that to be a cash transaction or not. Huh. Now, here, if I would have recorded this transaction into the journal, I would have passed the entry as cash account debit 3265. Sales, I'm sorry, National Bank account debit 10,000 to sales account 13,265. ऐसा एंट्री मैंने किया होता अगर मैं जर्नल एंट्री कर रहा होता तो. But am I doing journal entry? No, I'm recording the transactions in my cash book. And therefore, this transaction will be recorded in two parts. First, the entry will be for sales, that is cash account debit to sales account 13,265. And then there will be the contra entry for National Bank account debit to cash account rupees 10,000 because you have deposited cash into the bank or not. So accordingly, in the cash book onto the debit side for the fifth transaction we are recording to sales in the cash column 13,265. This is the first part of it. And second part is what? Depositing cash into bank. So my entry will be to cash in the National Bank column 10,000. Now I had said, if you remember, that we are not supposed to do the posting of contra transaction. So we need to identify what is contra transaction. Therefore, for identifying it being a contra transaction, we put C within the circle. Am I going good for everyone? And then on to the contra side, I'll be writing what? By National Bank in the cash column 10,000. Am I right? And this being a contra transaction, again C within the circle. ताकि हमें पता चले कि इसका contra effect दिया हुआ है और at the same time we are not supposed to do the posting of this transaction. For that purpose, we are writing C within the circle. Am I clear? Sahil, I sold the goods for rupees 13,265 for cash. And out of that cash, I have deposited 10,000 into the bank. So instead of passing the separate entry for these two transactions, I am recording that in a single part, that is in two parts. That is, two sales, 13,265 will be the first entry. And then contra entry will be national bank account debit to cash account. Did you understand it now, Sahil? Sahil, okay. Yes. अगर गाना गाने वाले का सा हिल गया तो रेगमप कैसे आएगा? नहीं, इसलिए सा बिल्कुल भी नहीं हिलना चाहिए. सा स्थिर रहेगा तो रेगमप बरोबर होगा, है ना? सारे गमप पधनी सारे, वो वाला. असो, received cash of 14,500 from Ramesh after allowing the discount of 500. So you have received the cash and allowed him the discount. Entry will be what? To Ramesh. Cash account debit, discount account debit to Ramesh account. This will be the entry. Therefore, to Ramesh 14,500, and in the discount allowed column rupees 500. Why discount allowed column 500? क्योंकि जब डिस्काउंट अलाउ किया है तो वो हमारा खर्च है, खर्च हमेशा डेबिट साइड में आएगा. करेक्ट. The next one is what? Deposited 5,000 in National Bank. Now deposited what? Deposited cash, of course. So entry will be what? National Bank account debit to cash account. Again, it's a contra transaction then. So how will it be recorded? To cash. See within the circle. कितना deposit किया? 5,000. We won't post cash amount after deducting discount amount. Janvi, the transaction is given to us as what? Received cash of 14,500. So discount is in addition to 14,500 and not from 14,500. Isn't it? And then on to the credit side, I need to give the contra effect as by National Bank. See within the circle rupees 5,000 in the cash column. Am I right? Next, issued check of 9,000 on overseas bank to Mr. Pappu after receiving the discount of 1,000. Again, the same ways. Issued check of rupees 9,000. Matlab, this is post discount amount. So I'll directly be writing as in what? आजकल तो पप्पू को कोई हाय हेलो नहीं बोले, यहाँ तो चेक दे रहे हैं हम लोग. पता है ना पप्पू, our national child, you know. By Pappu in the National Bank column. किस पे दिया? Overseas bank दिया है? Overseas bank, I'm sorry. In the overseas bank column, 9,000, and the discount received column, 1,000. Am I right? Next one, withdrew rupees 5,000 from the overseas bank. पैसा अब तक डिपॉजिट कर रहे थे, अब निकाल रहे हैं. So our entry will be what? Cash account debit to overseas bank account. Yes or no? So to overseas bank account for contra transaction, cash column will record 5,000. And then on to the credit side, by cash, being a contra transaction in the overseas bank column will record 5,000. Correct? Yes or no? The next one, a demand draft was purchased for rupees 3,000 by paying cash from a bank after paying 2 towards their charges and paid to the electricity department as a deposit. Now understand the point in here, that here the amount of cash is paid for the purpose of buying that demand draft. The demand draft is a kind of check which is issued by the bank on deposit of certain money in the name of the person to whom you want to issue it. क्या होता है, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी डिपार्टमेंट हो या गवर्नमेंट डिपार्टमेंट हो, ये नॉर्मली आपका और मेरा साइन किया हुआ चेक एक्सेप्ट नहीं करते हैं. क्यों? बिकॉज दे डोंट हैव द कॉन्फिडेंस इन यू. तुमने चेक दे दिया, बाद में बाउंस करवा दिया, कौन फॉलो अप लेगा? गवर्नमेंट को पता है हमारा सिस्टम कितना स्ट्रांग है. So for that purpose, what do they do is they say that whenever you're depositing certain money into the bank, into the government, you need to pay it by demand draft. क्योंकि डिमांड ड्राफ्ट जो होते हैं, these are also called as bankers check, ये कभी बाउंस नहीं होते हैं जनरली. और इसी वजह से वो डिपॉजिट्स जो मांगे जाते हैं वो डिमांड ड्राफ्ट के तौर पे मांगे जाते हैं. Now here they have not mentioned from which bank you got the demand draft, so we will not consider this is a bank transaction. This will be the cash transaction. यहाँ अगर बैंक का नाम दिया होता तो would have considered the respective bank transaction, but here no bank name is given, so we'll be assuming this to be a cash transaction. On top of that, you have given this money to the electricity department as a deposit and not as an expense. So your entry for that will be what? Electricity deposit account debit 3000, क्योंकि बैंक ने आपसे भले 3002 रुपए ली दिए, but बैंक ने आपको जो डिमांड ड्राफ्ट दिया वो तो 3000 रुपए का दिया. Therefore electricity deposit account debit rupees 3000, बैंक चार्जेस अकाउंट डेबिट 2, क्योंकि बैंक ने आपसे फीस इकट्ठा की, फीस कलेक्ट की फॉर द पर्पस ऑफ इशूइंग द डिमांड ड्राफ्ट. 2 cash account 3002 will be the entry. Did you understand this point? So on to the credit side, we'll be writing as what? By electricity deposit of 3000, then by bank charges of rupees 2. Did you get this? Yes or no? Next one. Interest of 122 and 50 credited and debited respectively by the overseas bank and national bank. Now, respectively means what? Those individual banks have done it separately. So this 122 is credited by overseas bank to you, whereas this 50 is debited by national bank. बैंक ने आपसे 50, आपको 50 रुपए डेबिट किए, मतलब बैंक ने आपसे पैसा लिया. बैंक डेबिट्स योर अकाउंट व्हेन यू विड्रॉ द मनी, सो इट इज एज गुड एज विड्रॉल और नॉट. सो बैंक ने अगर आपसे पैसा लिया तो आपको बैंक को पैसा देना पड़ेगा. बैंक इंटरेस्ट इज योर खर्चा इफ इट इज पेड और नॉट, and therefore your entry will be what? Interest expense account debit to national bank account rupees 50. This is one transaction. And second, overseas bank account debit to interest income account 122, क्योंकि overseas बैंक ने आपको ब्याज दिया है. Am I right? So to interest income in overseas bank column 122, whereas by interest expense in the national bank column will be rupees 50. Did you get it right? Yes or no? अरे मैं आपको छापने के लिए समय देता हूं, आप पहले समझ लो. अगर आप साथ में लिख रहे हो तो बहुत अच्छी बात है, otherwise I'll give you the time. You first understand. Next, an amount of 1500 was withdrawn from the overseas bank and salaries paid to that extent. Again, I'm not going to write the combined entry for this. Why? Because these are two separate transactions. One, I have withdrawn the cash, and second, then I paid the salary. So first I'll be passing the entry for contra entry for withdrawal of cash, and then will be the entry for salaries paid. Accordingly, in the cash book onto the debit side, I'll be writing what? To overseas bank account being a contra transaction in the cash column, rupees 1,500. And at the same time, I'll be writing onto the credit side for the contra transaction to complete by cash being a contra transaction in overseas bank column 1,500. Am I right? And then to that extent, you have paid the salaries by cash. Therefore, by salaries only in the cash column 1,500. Is it right? Because my entry for salaries will be what? Salaries expense account debit to cash account. Correct? Hai? Then manager's salary of rupees 1,000 was paid by check drawn on National Bank. Manager's salaries paid by check drawn on National Bank. Now here manager's salary is directly paid by check. Therefore, on to the credit side, by manager's salary, or you can write by salary expense, either which way. How much is it? Rupees 1,000. कहाँ का मैनेजर है पता नहीं, 1,000 रुपए में काम कर रहा है. ये मुझे लगता है यूएस के प्रेसिडेंट के जैसा ही है, 1 रुपए में काम करने वाला, $1 में नहीं. Overseas bank collected dividend of rupees 1,250 and sent a credit note. Overseas bank ने आपके बिहाफ पे पैसा कलेक्ट किया in the form of dividend. Dividend is our income. और उसके अगेंस्ट आपको क्रेडिट नोट भेज दिया, मतलब आपको इंटीमेशन भेज दी कि हमने पैसा वसूल करके आप तुम्हारे अकाउंट में क्रेडिट कर दिया. So it's my income. So I'll pass the entry for that is what? Overseas bank account debit to dividend income account. To dividend income in the overseas bank column 1250. Is it right? Hayana. And then finally, an amount of rupees 1,500 was transferred from overseas bank to the national bank. Again, a contra transaction, because there are two banks involved, so both the effects will be completed within the cash book itself. Entry will be national bank account debit to overseas bank account, क्योंकि पैसा overseas bank से जा रहा है और national bank को मिल रहा है. Therefore, last transaction to overseas bank account, again a contra transaction in the national bank column, rupees 1,500. अब तक कैश विड्रॉ हो रहा था, अब पैसा ट्रांसफर हो रहा है. And on to the credit side, by national bank for the contra transaction in the overseas column, rupees 1,500. Am I right? And then we have to do the balancing of these ledgers by, not ledgers, but these columns. Balance carried down. So in my cash column, the debit amounts are 150. हाँ, कैलकुलेटर बंद हो जाए तो ऐसे चमाट मारो, अपने आप चालू हो जाता है. देखो 150, 13,265, 14,500, 5,000, 1,500. So total of the cash column is 34,415. This is the total, not the balance. 415. And from that, I need to subtract all the transactions onto the credit. Minus 45, minus 16, minus 10,000, minus 5,000, minus 3,002, minus 1,500. That comes to 14,852. All right. In the national bank column, debit side is 1250, 10,000, 5,000, 1,500. So total of the column is 17,750. 17,750. From that, I'll subtract what? 11 to 45, 50,000. That's it. So balance is 5455. Correct. And then the overseas bank column 35,460 plus 122 plus 1250. Total of the column is 36,832. 36,832. Here, bhai. Just a moment. पेंसिल ने चलते चलते दम तोड़ दिया. 36,832 minus 13,210 minus 9,000 minus 5,000 minus 1,500 minus 1,500. So 6622 is the overseas bank column total balance. 6622. And for the discount columns, I'm not going to take the balance, but I'm going to do the total of it. Did you get that? समझ आया कैश बुक का फॉर्मेट? कैश बुक में एंट्री कैसे होती है? Anyone having doubts in this? Just complete it fast. Debit side of cash entry for rupees 3,002, 10 is there or not? Why debit side transaction will be there, Chaitanya? 3,002 will be coming only on the credit side because it's a kind of payment or not? How it will be coming onto the debit side? Yes, Kushi, you're allowed to use the calculator in the CA exam. Even for the law paper, you can carry the calculator. काम नहीं आएगा वो बात अलग है, but you can carry it. Janvi, if I am making the payment to someone through a demand draft, that demand draft I have taken from the bank. So the amount that I paid to the bank will be recorded in my books of accounts or not? So I'll pass the entry for that as what? Electricity. When the purpose is given, person is not important, correct or not? Janvi. So I'll pass the entry as what? Electricity deposit account debit 3,000, bank charges account debit क्योंकि खर्चा हो रहा है मेरा. Rupees 2 to cash account 3,002. Did you get it now? No, this entry by itself is for purchasing the demand draft. Huh? Why we will pass the separate entry again? Are you getting it? This entry that we have passed is nothing but for purchasing the demand draft. Is it done? बड़े स्लो हो गया तुम लोग दिवाली के बाद छुट्टियां मना के। अभी तक तुम्हारा फरसान खत्म नहीं हुआ लगता है। मैंने जैसे कहा कि बड़े स्लो हो गए हो, देवेंद्र एकदम उसका ईगो ही हर्ट हो गया, कहता है डन सर। आप ऐसे बैठे बैठे ताने न मारो हमको। नहीं देवेंद्र, ओहो सॉरी। हाँ देवेंद्र, in fact with this cash book we have finished the concepts related to the subsidiary books. अरे शिवम, the discount column we have not balanced. अगर हमने बैलेंस किया होता तो दोनों का हमने टोटल मैच किया होता, but because we have not balanced it, we are going to do the posting of discount column on the debit side separately and discount column onto the credit side separately. Therefore the total of both the sides is different. The cash column, the national bank column and the overseas bank column are balanced and therefore their totals are same. Yes Omkar, go ahead. फिफ्थ क्वेश्चन में क्या डाउट है तेरे को? वैसे आज मैं पढ़ के नहीं आया हूं, फिर भी ट्राई करेगा अगर समझा पाया तो। क्या है, तुमको बताने के लिए रोज याद करना पड़ता है ना, क्या क्या बोलना है क्या क्या नहीं बोलना है। गो अहेड ओमकार। नेशनल बैंक इज 5455। नंबर 14 में कैश सेल्स हैं तो वो सेल्स बुक में नहीं आता ना, सिर्फ क्रेडिट सेल्स। यस ऑफ कोर्स, in the sales book you record only the credit sales and not the cash sales. वो उस वाले एग्जाम्पल में सिर्फ मामू बनाने के लिए दिया था. Okay. In fact, as I was saying earlier, we have already finished now with the concepts related to the subsidiary books. We have talked about purchase book, sales book, purchase return, sales return, cash book, columnar purchase book, columnar sales book. We have talked about the concept of narrations in the subsidiary book. You are not supposed to write. Journal, yes, you have to write. So with this, the concepts related to subsidiary books are over. If you refer your ICAI module, out of that chapter 2, unit 1, 2 and 3, we have already done. Now what remains is only the concept related to the trial balance and the concept related to petty cash system. These are the only 2 points remaining. In my next lecture, that is tomorrow at 3:30. Tomorrow we'll be having the session from 3:30 to 5. We'll be discussing with the concept related to petty cash as well as trial balance. And then we'll be completing the last problem in your textbook, the final problem. Petty cash book का तो problem नहीं करेगा मैं. This one, this example will finish. And with this, we'll finish the chapter 2 of the ICI module, accepting the rectification of errors. And that's why I said from Monday onwards, we'll be having the sessions of Abhishek sir from 4:30 to 6. He takes the lecture from 4:30 to 6, means full 4:30 to 6. He doesn't take the limited time lectures. All right. So tomorrow's session at 3:30 will be starting with the concept of petty cash book and petty cash system. For now, I'll stop by. We'll meet tomorrow at 3:30. Thank you.